Okay, what if the Garden of Eden was in Florida? Spoiler alert, I actually don't think it's in Florida. I think it's somewhere else. But I'll get into that in just a minute. So this is a legit question, and I get this a lot. So I thought I'd just make a quick video on the topic because I have not put together a cohesive video about the Garden of Eden yet. But I plan to soon. I'm just in the middle of a bunch of research about it, so I want to finish that first. So this comes from, there was a pastor in probably the 1940s, I believe, who did a big TV interview on this topic and also wrote a book. And he believed that the Garden of Eden was in Florida. And a lot of the reason he thought that was because of the river system found in Florida. It does seem to be a river system that matches the description in the Bible. And then also because of the location of gopher wood. Gopher wood grows in northern Florida and southern Georgia. It's the only place in the world it grows. And a lot of translations say Noah built his ark out of gopher wood. So while I do still think it's highly probable Noah could have built his ark down there, they could have migrated south by that point, I no longer think that the Garden of Eden was in Florida. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not going to get into all of them here. But basically it doesn't match when you start learning about these rivers and the activity that went on, people traveling from this place to that place, up and down the river. And the boundaries, like this river created the boundary of this land, yada, yada, yada. It just doesn't really make sense anymore. Also, like the land of Nod, like east, which was east of Eden. There's not a lot east in Florida. It's all sorts of stuff. I'm not going to get into it. However, where I do think the Garden of Eden was Montana, and more specifically, probably Yellowstone National Park. The land of Havilah was definitely in Yellowstone National Park. Again, this is a big topic. I can't cover all of it in this video, but I want to address specifically this subject of the four rivers. Because the Bible does seem to be describing a single river that splits and branches into four rivers, and in nature we just don't really see that. It's the opposite. You'll have four rivers come together and make one river, but you don't have one river that splits and goes into four. And even though I thought that Eden was probably in Yellowstone, and my brilliant friend Sierra the Times is the one who clued me into this, and I'm gonna hand it to you, Pamela. You have not been wrong so far. Even the things I wasn't sure of ended up, when I studied it out, I was like, okay, she's right. So Yellowstone National Park in Montana seems to have been the location of the Garden of Eden, or at least very nearby, or part of it. But my big question was about this river too, because I'm like, it does seem like it's saying one goes into four, and I cannot reconcile that in my head, because the rivers we have marked out is the Missouri was the Tigris, the Euphrates was the Mississippi, the Platte River was the Gihon, and Yellowstone is Pishon. And Pishon winds around the land of Havilah, which is Yellowstone National Park. But some of the rivers, like as I started to learn more and get more into like Canada and the storylines up there with Babylon and Assyria, it's like it wasn't quite matching out. I was like, something's off. We couldn't quite figure it out. So I started digging into the rivers a little more, and I found a couple things that are really starting to help answer these questions for me. And one is that the Missouri River used to run north. So it used to run, now it runs southeast to the Mississippi and ultimately the Gulf of Mexico. It used to run north to the Hudson Bay, which fits what Scripture describes perfectly. And I found more information about the changes in the other rivers too. I'm still working on that. But, you know, there have been changes in the river system, some possibly natural events, some man-made events. And quick side topic here, because I know I'm going to get comments about this, and it's a legit question, but people ask me a lot, well, what about the Mercator Map and the North Pole and the four rivers coming out of the center? And yes, I am highly aware of that, and I don't discredit that theory at all. I actually started looking into that theory in particular almost 12 years ago. But that is a different topic for a different day. I just want to say that, yes, I understand that theory, and I still take it into consideration with this new information that I'm learning. But I'm not going to place my faith in a map or maps over what the Bible is mapping out, that I can clearly see in great detail in real life, modern day world that I live in, over some maps that may or may not be accurate or real. I think they are, but if anything, I think probably that theory and this theory are going to end up interplaying together somehow, but we just don't have enough information available to us yet to figure all of that out yet. Okay, moving on. So the two things that have really intrigued me, though, that I've learned about the rivers is, one, in Yellowstone National Park there is a river, or actually it's probably qualifies as a stream. It starts as one stream and it splits into two and goes two opposite directions. And that does not really happen anywhere. I think I read there's only one or two locations in the whole world that happen. So that's interesting. The other thing is, there is actually a Continental Divide in Montana near Yellowstone National Park that is considered a three-way Continental Divide. However, there are experts who argue that technically it's a four-way Continental Divide. So what that means, Continental Divide is where the watershed goes. So there's a Continental Divide, and half of the water will flow north, and half of the water, all the water on the other side will flow south. And so it's a two-way watershed. But in Montana, there is a three-way, probably a four-way, depending on what research you look at, watershed, where the water runs four different ways and goes into every major ocean. And that is the only place in the entire world that happens. So I have not put all the pieces together in the implications of that yet. But when I found that out, I was a little bit mind blown, and that was the final piece of confirmation I needed, that yes, Montana, Yellowstone was the location of the Garden of Eden. And I mean, I can map this all out for you, but that's not what this video is about. I just wanted to kind of address that and share that, because that's relatively new information to me, and I was like, I just thought it was the coolest thing ever when I found that out. So I'm still working on this topic. I have a lot of information about the rivers and the changes the rivers made over the years and why those changes supposedly happened. There's a big glacial lake and all this stuff. But I'm still working. I'm still hashing out the details. So I will do some videos on it eventually. But this is a good question, a legit question. That old pastor guy, his theory was legit. I respect him greatly for being willing to put himself out there and explore that topic. But with a little more digging, I just don't think it lines up. Anyway, let me know your thoughts and your questions in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. Hope you guys have a great day.